Last week, I stood on a stage in Mumbai and said something that shocked the room. I said, I am very worried about other countries. Even the United States is falling behind. The audience went silent because they knew what I was really saying. The head of the world's largest American asset manager, standing in India, telling a room full of Indian investors that his own country is losing the race. That's not something you hear every day. I run BlackRock. We manage $12 trillion, dollars, more money than the GDP of every country on earth except the United States and China. I've spent 40 years building relationships with every major government, every central bank, every Fortune 500 company. And I'm telling you, the next 20 to 25 years belong to India, not America, not Europe, not even China. India. Let me explain why I said what I said and why it matters for everyone watching this, whether you live in New York or New Delhi. I was in Mumbai for a Geo BlackRock event. Sitting next to me was Mukesh Ambani, the richest man in Asia, chairman of Reliance Industries, worth over $100 billion. dollars. We were discussing what investing for a new era really means, and the conversation kept coming back to one thing: digital transformation. Think about what India has done in the last decade. Think about the digitization of the rupee. Think about UPI. Think about how 1.4 billion people now transact money instantly for free on their phones. I called it a wonder to watch because it is. When the Modi administration digitized the rupee, it transformed commerce across India, not in some cities, not for some people, across the board, street vendors, small businesses, farmers and villages, everyone. And then I looked at America. I looked at Europe. I looked at the systems we still use, the checks we still write, the fees we still pay, the days we still wait for transfers. That's when I said it. Even the United States is falling behind. We need to be digitized. This isn't about politics. This isn't about ideology. This is about looking at reality and being honest about what I see. India leapfrogged. While developed economies debated and deliberated and protected old systems, India built new ones. While we talked about digital transformation, they did it. Let me give you a concrete example. In America, if you want to send money to someone, you have options. You can write a check, which takes days to clear. You can use a wire transfer, which costs $25 to $50. You can use Venmo or PayPal, which still charge fees for instant transfers or business transactions. In India, you open your phone, scan a QR code, and the money moves instantly, for free, to anyone, anywhere in the country. Street vendors use it, farmers use it, billion-dollar companies use it. That's UPI, Unified Payments Interface, the most successful digital payment system in the world, processing over 12 billion transactions per month, more than credit cards in America, more than any other system anywhere. And it was built by a developing country, while America, the supposed technology leader, still runs on systems designed before most people reading this were born. You want to understand the era of India? Start with 2012. That's the pivotal year, the beginning of the smartphone revolution in India. Before 2012, most Indians didn't have smartphones. By 2026, over a billion do. Think about what that means. Think about how life changed for hundreds of millions of people. Commerce, education, information, entertainment, healthcare, everything transformed. Then came 5G. India rolled it out faster and cheaper than almost anyone. Better coverage than most developed countries, at a fraction of the cost. Then came digital payments. UPI processed over 12 billion transactions in a single month. No other country comes close. Not America, not China, not anyone. India is more accepting of technology than many developed countries. India is more accepting of change than most developed economies. That's what I said in Mumbai. And it's the truth. The dispersion of technology in India is what's so inspiring. The utilization of new technology for more and more people. How it transforms commerce, consumption, information, education. All of that is ripe for real solid growth. Now let me tell you the numbers that keep me up at night. India is going to grow 8 to 10% per year for the next decade or more, maybe even 12% in some years. Sustained, compounding growth. Do you understand what that means? At 8% growth, an economy doubles every 9 years. At 10% every 7 years. India's economy is currently around $4 to $4.5 trillion. Mukesh Ambani projects it could reach $25 to $30 trillion over the next 30 years. That's not optimism. That's math. Meanwhile, what's happening in America? Growth of 2 to 3% if we're lucky. Debt approaching $40 trillion. Political gridlock. Infrastructure crumbling. A financial system running on software that's 40 to 60 years old. I manage the money of American pension funds, American retirement accounts, American families saving for their future. And I'm telling them, look at India. That's why I said I personally want to invest in India, not as a courtesy to my hosts, not as corporate diplomacy, because it's where the growth is. Let me be clear about something. This isn't about India versus America. This isn't about one country winning and another losing. This is about recognizing where the world is heading and positioning yourself accordingly. The fundamental opportunity in India is the huge intellectualism of the country, the ability to transform technology, whether that technology was created in the US or somewhere else in the world, the ability to deploy it at scale, to adapt it, to improve it. India doesn't need to invent everything. It needs to implement everything, and it's doing that better than anyone. Mukesh Ambani said something that stuck with me. He said India has built more roads in the last 15 years than any other country, including the United States at its peak. India is now the leading renewable power producer in the world. India has built digital capacities, including 5G, that are better than most people in the world and cheaper than most people in the world. This is execution at scale. This is what separates countries that talk about transformation from countries that actually transform. Now, some people will say I'm just talking my book. BlackRock has a joint venture with Geo. We're launching mutual funds in India. Of course I'm going to say nice things. Let me address that directly. I've been in this business for 40 years. I've seen every investment trend come and go. I've seen bubbles inflate and pop. I've seen countries rise and fall. I don't stake my reputation on flattery. I stake it on analysis. When I look at India, I see structural advantages that most countries don't have. A young population when the rest of the world is aging. A growing middle class when other middle classes are shrinking. Digital infrastructure that leapfrogs legacy systems. Political stability that allows long-term planning. Mukesh Ambani credited Prime Minister Modi for 15 years of stable economic leadership. By 2029, it will be 15 years of consistent policy direction. That matters. Stable economic leadership defines a country. Compare that to what's happening in America, or Europe, or most of the developed world. Political chaos, policy reversals, short-term thinking. Investors don't just want returns, They want predictability. They want to know the rules won't change every time there's an election. India is providing that. Now, let me tell you what worries me about America. It's not any single policy or politician, it's the inability to adapt. When I talk to leaders in Washington, they're still debating things that India implemented years ago: digital identity, instant payments, financial inclusion. These aren't future concepts in India, they're everyday reality. Meanwhile, Americans still wait 3 to 5 business days for bank transfers, still pay fees to move their own money, still use a check system designed in the 1800s. We need to be digitized. We need to be thinking about how this all plays out, because while we debate, others act. The democratization of India is what I called it. And India is now a leader in this. Think about what that means for the average person. In America, the financial system is designed for people who already have money: minimum balances, account fees, investment minimums, barriers everywhere. In India, the system is being designed for inclusion, for the street vendor who processes payments on their phone, for the farmer who gets subsidies directly into their account, for the first generation investor who can start with a few hundred rupees. That's not just good policy, that's competitive advantage. Now, let me address something else I said in Mumbai, something that got less attention but matters just as much. I don't believe there's an AI bubble. People keep asking me about AI valuations, about whether we're in another dot-com situation, about whether the hype exceeds the reality. Here's what I believe. The greatest risk we have is if we don't continue to invest in AI, because if we don't, China will win. AI is going to be a powerful growth engine for the world. Yes, it will be disruptive. Yes, it will eliminate some jobs. Yes, it will create winners and losers. But countries that embrace AI will pull ahead. Countries that hesitate will fall behind. And here's what's interesting about India. Because of its large population, AI is going to create jobs and disrupt jobs. But for economies that are willing to accept change and rapidly deploy that change in a positive way, AI is an opportunity. India rapidly transformed its economy with the digitization of the rupee. That same willingness to embrace change positions India well for the AI revolution. I worry that America doesn't have that willingness anymore. Too many people see change as threat. Too many institutions protect the status quo. Too much energy goes into fighting the future instead of building it. The key for AI to be really successful in every society is making sure it broadens economic success rather than narrows it. That's the challenge. But India is better positioned to meet that challenge than most. Mukesh Ambani said something that captured this perfectly. He said India could use AI to solve problems in education, healthcare, and security at a fraction of global costs. Without AI, these problems couldn't even be dreamed about solving. With AI, India can deliver quality education to 200 million school children. That's the scale we're talking about. That's the ambition. That's what happens when a country embraces the future instead of fearing it. Now let me tell you what Indians need to do to capture this opportunity. Stop buying gold. I know that sounds harsh. Gold is deeply embedded in Indian culture. It's savings, it's security, it's tradition. But Mukesh Ambani pointed out that India imported $60 billion worth of gold last year, another 10 to 15 billion in silver for domestic savings. That's 70 to 75 billion dollars sitting in safes and jewelry boxes, not growing, not compounding, not participating in India's rise. If Indians can be convinced to invest in capital markets in a safe, transparent, and consistent way, the returns are there. India is growing 8 to 10% per year. Your gold is growing maybe 5%, maybe less. The math is simple. Invest alongside the growth of your country. That's what we learned in the United States. The segment of the population that invested with the growth of America is far better off than those who kept all their money in a bank account. If you believe in the era of India, you need to get more people investing alongside the growth of the country. That's not just good for individuals, it's good for India. Because as more families invest alongside growth, India needs less importation of foreign capital. The fundamental foundation of any country is having the domestic economy built on the back of retirement savings, on the back of excess savings, to invest alongside that growth. That's what we're trying to build with BlackRock. Not just another asset manager, a platform for hundreds of millions of Indians to participate in their own country's rise. Mukesh Ambani recalled how our partnership came together. We were in a car in 2023, a 5-minute ride from point A to point B. And in that car ride, he said to me, "Larry, BlackRock should be back in India." That's how it started. 5 minutes. Because when you see an opportunity this clear, you don't need months of analysis. I'm absolutely convinced that in the era of India, we need to compel hundreds of millions of Indians to invest alongside the growth of India. That's not a slogan, that's a business strategy, and it's the right thing to do. Now let me bring this back to what I said at the beginning about America falling behind. Some people criticized me for that comment, said I was being unpatriotic, said I was talking down my own country to flatter my hosts. Let me be direct. I love America. I built my career in America. BlackRock is headquartered in New York. The vast majority of our assets are American. But loving your country doesn't mean ignoring its problems. It means being honest about them. It means pushing for change before it's too late. When I see India digitizing while America debates, I worry. When I see India building infrastructure while America's bridges crumble, I worry. When I see India embracing technology while America fears it, I worry. That worry isn't pessimism, it's motivation. Because I believe America can still compete, can still lead, but only if we wake up to what's happening around us. The era of India doesn't have to mean the decline of America. It can mean competition that makes everyone better, but only if we compete. Right now, we're not competing. We're complacent. We're living on the achievements of previous generations. We're assuming our position is permanent. It's not. No country stays on top forever. Every empire eventually fades. The question is whether you manage the transition gracefully or get overtaken while you're still telling yourself you're number one. I'm 73 years old. I've seen a lot of history. I've seen countries rise and fall, and I've never been more convinced that we're living through a generational shift in global economic power. The next 20 to 25 years will be the era of India. Not because India is perfect, not because it doesn't have challenges, but because it's moving in the right direction while others are standing still. India is where I want to invest. India is where I am investing. And India is where I think every serious investor should be looking. That's not a betrayal of America. That's an honest assessment of opportunity. And if more Americans made that assessment, maybe we'd finally get serious about fixing our own problems. When you think about the growth of India, don't think quarter to quarter. Don't think year to year. Think in decades. Think about the long horizon. Over 20 years, short-term fluctuations have no bearing. Trade deals, political noise, market volatility, none of it matters over a 20-year horizon. What matters are foundational issues: demographics, technology, infrastructure, institutions. India has the foundations. Now it needs to build on them. And the world needs to pay attention, because what's happening in India isn't just an Indian story, it's a global story. It's about where the world's growth will come from, where the world's consumers will be, where the world's innovation will happen. Miss this story, and you miss the next 25 years of global economic history. I've said what I needed to say. I've been honest about my own country's weaknesses and another country's strengths. That's not comfortable, but it's necessary, because the truth doesn't care about comfort, and neither do markets. India is rising. America needs to respond, and investors need to position themselves for a world that's changing faster than most people realize. That's what I see. That's what I believe. And that's why I said what I said in Mumbai. Even the United States is falling behind. It's time to catch up. Let me leave you with a few final thoughts. For American investors, don't let patriotism blind you to opportunity. Your retirement account doesn't care about nationalism. It cares about returns. If India is growing 8 to 10%, while America grows 2 to 3%, the math speaks for itself. Diversify globally. Look east. The future isn't where you think it is. For Indian investors, stop waiting. Stop watching from the sidelines. Your country is in the middle of the greatest economic transformation in its history. Participate in it. Invest alongside it. Convert your savings from gold and bank deposits into productive capital. Every rupee you invest in India's growth comes back to you multiplied. For business leaders everywhere, pay attention to execution, not just innovation. America still leads in creating new technologies, but India leads in deploying them at scale. The country that can take an idea and implement it for 1 billion people will win. For policymakers, digital infrastructure isn't optional anymore. It's the foundation of 21st century competitiveness. Countries that don't digitize will be left behind. Not in decades, in years. The window is closing faster than anyone realizes. Mukesh Ambani said something at our event that summarizes everything. He said young Indians today believe their tomorrow will be better than today. That confidence in the future is a big change for India. Think about that. 1 billion people waking up every day believing tomorrow will be better. That's not just sentiment, that's economic fuel. That's what drives consumption, investment, risk-taking, entrepreneurship. When I interact with startups in India, when I meet 28 and 30-year-olds starting companies, I can clearly see 100 new reliances in terms of aspiration and confidence. That's what Ambani said. 100 new reliances, 100 new companies that could grow to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Where else in the world do you see that kind of ambition? Where else do you see that kind of scale? Where else do you see an entire generation that believes the best is yet to come? That's the era of India. That's what I flew halfway around the world to be part of. That's why I stood on that stage and said what I said. America built the 20th century. India is building the 21st. Recognize that, position for it, profit from it, or be left behind. The choice is yours. I've been doing this for 4 decades. I've seen every market cycle, every crisis, every boom and bust. I've watched countries rise from poverty to prosperity and watched others decline from dominance to irrelevance. The signs are always there. The question is whether you're willing to see them. Right now, the signs are pointing east. to a country of 1.4 billion people who are young, hungry, digital, and increasingly wealthy, to an economy that's doubling every decade, to a government that's building infrastructure at a pace no one has seen before. That's where the future is being built. Pay attention or get left behind. That's not a threat. That's a fact. And facts don't care about your feelings.